Kia ora, good morning. How do I explain this? I woke up just after 2 to go to the toilet because I've been drinking a lot. And for some reason, well, not for some reason, I act like I'm surprised. Every time I get woken up and I can't get back to sleep, it's because I know I'm being told to wait for something. Like I'm being called to do something. Because usually I go to sleep and I'll wake up in the morning, or if I have to go to the wharipaku, I have no problems getting straight back to sleep. I do drink a lot of water on purpose, even right up to sleeping, because, flushing the kidneys out, I'm detoxing from years and years and years of domestic abuse and being poisoned and all of that sort of thing. So I drink a lot of water. The first thing I do when I wake up is drink water, and right up until I go to sleep I drink water, and I just flush everything out. And I go back to sleep, no problems. But every now and then, as you'll notice, when I make very early videos, when I'm not allowed to go back to sleep, I know I'm being told to wait for something because I'm about to be shown something or presented with something that requires my attention. I'm needing to do something, I'm being called to do something for God. Right, so today's the Sabbath, and as I explained yesterday, I don't do anything on the Sabbath. I get all my chores out the way during the week. Yesterday I cleaned the bathroom and that, did all the dishes and tidied up and everything so that I could rest today because it's the Sabbath. Today's the day where I just sit and contemplate with nature and God. And for some reason, and I haven't done this in quite a while, I have to admit, I don't need it. I don't need the Bible. I'm not obsessed with the Bible like other people, but I use it as a reference point, or like when I get the urge. And then what I do is, and it's been like this, like ever since I got my Bible when I was locked up, I just let the pages fall open, and every single time, wherever it lands, wherever my eye lands, and I read the passage or the psalm or whatever's there, it's always pertinent. It's always, there's always something in it that I needed to hear or that I had to hear, or, that I'm asked to decipher and that sort of thing. So I'm just sitting here. I thought, well, I'll make myself a coffee and just see what's happening. And so I'm sitting having a coffee. I've just got my headphones on listening to music because it's not early enough to listen to the birds yet. And I just felt this overwhelming urge to read my Bible. So, and I always keep it beside my bed. I keep my 3 Bibles beside my bed. My Bible, Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, and the Quran, which I'm still trying to learn to read. I eventually want to get the Torah as well. I just can't afford the one that is the English translation because I want to learn these things, right? It's important that I learn these things. So I just did what I usually do. I let the book fall open, and it landed on Revelation, but specifically the 7 bowls of God's wrath. And I started reading it all the way through to when I was told to stop, and I realised God was talking about the Balawan and Venezuela and what's just happened in Israel with the nuclear testing and stuff. So I'm going to read it to you, and then I'm going to tell you what I saw when I was reading it. God knew what was coming. I don't think my video's doing something stupid. Show live video. Alright, so I'm going to read it. I've got the phone right up to my face, and I think it's pressing on. I'm accidentally pressing on buttons, so I'm going to read what the Bible says, and he's spelling out everything that's just happened. So it's the seven bowls of God's wrath. Revelation 14:16. And then I heard a loud voice from the temple saying to the seven angels, "Go pour out the seven bowls of God's wrath on the earth." The first angel went and poured out his bowl on the land, and ugly and painful sores broke out on the people who had the mark of the beast and worshipped his image. That's the World Health Organization, with the monkeypox and the vaccinations and all of that. It's talking about the World Health Organization and how they're, Bill Gates and all of that. The monkeypox, you break out in sores. With the vaccinations, you break out in sores. It's talking about that. Because remember, they killed the Queen with the COVID vaccine. She's the first plague. This is pertinent. Just let me read. The second angel poured out his bowl on the sea, and it turned into blood like that of the dead man, and every living thing in the sea died. That's talking about net zero. And, their windmills and stuff they're putting in the oceans to get wind. It's killing all the whales and dolphins and stuff. They're beaching. It's killing them. The energy that's coming off and the toxicity that's coming off the windmills is poisoning the oceans with deadly frequencies that's making like the whales and dolphins in that beach, and it's putting them all off kilter, and it's killing the ocean life. I keep trying to tell the king, but anyway, so net zero is the second plague. The third angel poured out his bowl in the rivers and springs, and they became blood. And then I heard the angel in charge of the waters say, "You are just in these judgments, you who are and who were the Holy One, because you were so judged, for they have shed the blood of your saints and prophets, and you have given them blood to drink as they deserve." Technically, that could be talking about me, because I'm God's daughter, and I'm the water goddess. Like, I'm the water dragon. I'm the Undine. My my ascending name is Brahena Saithusa, but my high priestess name is Anahita, which is Persian, and it basically means water goddess, goddess of the water, goddess of the pure waters. So, because I'm trying to wake the king up and saying to the king, this climate change net zero thing, it's killing everything. They're poisoning the waters. They're killing the ocean life off. We've got to do something, because he's a water sign as well. So I'm trying to appeal to that side of his nature. Again, this is pertinent, because they're dumping toxic waste into the rivers and streams and all of that, which eventually goes out into the ocean. They're pouring all that crap into the ocean, and then using the waters of as an excuse to do the net zero thing, and it's killing the planet. It's killing everything off, and that's what God's talking about. So, for they shed the blood of your saints and prophets, and you have given them the blood to drink as they deserve. And I heard the altar respond, "Yes, Lord God Almighty, true and just are your judgments." Because I say to God, well, yeah, you're right. And this is what they're doing, and I trust that you're kicking them in the stones, because this is necessary. I'm trying to wake people up to the lies that they're being sold about what we need to do for the planet, because as an Indigenous woman, I hear her screams. I hear the pain and suffering of Papatūānuku, and it gets. I've been called all sorts. People have called me all sorts of names. I was poisoned because I was trying to wake people up to the poisoning of our grandmother and all of that. And then God comes along and says, "You're innocent. I'm going to exalt you and ascend you because you are a chosen one, and you're going to help spread the word. And people aren't going to like it, but they're sacrificing my ancestors who were not they weren't saints, they were knights and kings and pharaohs and chieftains and prophets, Egyptian high priest and high priestess, prophets and that, and it's been abused by the beast and his worshippers, the Illuminati, the World Economic Forum and all of that. That's who it's talking about. So I'm feeding them their own poison by exposing them, by doing my investigations and that. I'm forcing them to drink their own poison because people are starting to wake up to everything that I'm saying, right? So God knew what he was doing, man. So then it goes, the fourth angel poured out his bowl on the sun, and the sun was given power to scorch people with fire. They were seared by the intense heat, and they cursed the name of God who had control over these plagues, but they refused to repent and glorify him. Queen light of the sun, right? Scorched earth. My truth is purifying. Um, when I speak, my truth turns people to ash because my truth can't be denied. But they're still refusing to admit that my gift comes from God because they don't believe in God, they have no faith. All the people that, like, for example, a lot of those doctors that forced me to medicate when I was locked up were Christians. And I was showing them actual proof that God was present. Even Pastor Stephen knew what was happening to me. Even he agreed with what was going on. But the people who claim to have faith, remember, all of a sudden, Elon Musk is a Christian. Trump says he's a Christian. Keir Starmer says that he believes in God because he's Jewish and blah, blah, blah. And they're seeing God work his miracles right in front of them, and they're still denying it. I'm highlighting the truth to them. Vladimir Putin isn't wanting to nuke Great Britain and Europe. Vladimir Putin is trying to rescue children. The king isn't the bad guy. He's not doing sacrifices. This is what's happening. This is what they're doing behind closed doors, blah, blah, blah. The truth speaks for itself. Donald Trump knows he's screwed. Elon Musk knows he's screwed. They both know that the stuff that I've been doing, von der Leyen, they all know that the evidence I've been presenting in a court of law would absolutely stand. But they still refuse to believe that any of this is coming from God's wrath because they're the Antichrist movement. They're not here to prove God's existence. They're here to rewrite the Bible to prove that God didn't exist, because God doesn't work in their favour. He works in people like my favour, which is why he says, you are just in these judgments. You are you who are and who were the Holy One, because you have so judged, for they have shed the blood of your saints and prophets, and you have given the blood to them to drink as they deserve the truth. And also talking about, when he talks about blood, he's talking about the human sacrifices and the adrenochrome. But blood in the reverse can also be life force or life source, which is why they drink it. So then it says, scorch the sun, but they refuse to repent and glorify him. The fifth angel poured out his bowl on the throne of the beast, and his kingdom was plunged into darkness. Men gnawed their tongues in agony and cursed the God of heaven because of their pains and their sores, and they refused to repent of what they had done. That's talking about Donald Trump and how, all these court cases that he's losing, how he's lost Mar-a-Lago and all of that now because he lied at contempt of court, gnawing at their tongues because they lied in court. They've been charged with things like contempt of court, perjury. His lawyers have dumped him. like J.D. Vance and all that have started turning on him. Congress, the Republicans and that, they're all turning on him because they, and like Cash Patel, for example, gnawing at their tongues because they lied. And they're trying to cover up the fact that they all lied. They're trying to hide from the fact that they lied in order to protect the beast, which is Lucifer, which is Trump. And so now his kingdom is falling into darkness. God knew. The sixth angel poured out his bowl on the great river Euphrates, and its water was dried up to prepare for the way of the kings from the east. The Holy Trinity bloodlines. Now, the beast rose from the east, that's Lucifer, that's New York. The three kings rising from the east, Russia is in the east, Eastern Europe, but also if you look on the map of Great Britain, where I am in Yorkshire and the king is in London, if we head towards Russia, if we head towards the Middle East, if we head towards Europe, we're also east. So he's paving the way for the three kings, bloodline to birth the new world, which is in at the end of the book of Revelation. Then I saw three evil spirits that looked like frogs, and they came out of the mouth of the dragon, out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. That's talking about Maduro, Starmer, and Trump and what they did off the coast of Great Britain with the Bella One. The three frogs rose from the mouth of the dragon. The dragon, remember, I figured out was Maduro, because he's, even though his star sign, he's cusp Scorpio Sagittarius, he's technically Ophiuchus, which is, or Ophiuchus, however you want to say it, which is the Leviathan, the water snake, the water dragon. So God knew what they were planning to do. What they did with the Bella One has it's sealed their fate. What they've done has triggered the downfall of the beast system, because now I've exposed the fact that they did indeed steal children that were in the middle of being rescued from traffickers. And when this all gets out and it reaches courts and the media and that sort of thing, all the nations that were involved in helping them steal these children are going to collapse as a result. Nobody's going to want to deal with them. And it talks about this too. So the evil spirits that look like frogs, they came out of the mouth of the dragon, out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. Remember, Donald Trump said he was the second coming, so he's the false prophet. They are spirits of demons performing miraculous signs, and they go out to the kings of the whole world to gather them for the battle on the great day of God Almighty, because, we're in a holy war. And now what happened is after Bella won, we're going to take over Greenland. We're going to put our military in the United Kingdom and we're going to take over Greenland. At the same time as Starmer saying we're going to stop the military that are putting their bases in our country to stop them from taking over Greenland. So now Denmark's involved, and France and Germany and NATO are involved. All these kingdoms are gathering under the pretense of protecting Greenland, but it's all to try and start World War III. So this whole Venezuela thing wasn't just to cover up the fact that they were stealing children and the fact that it was the day that Trump was supposed to be releasing the Epstein files, which is ironic. The day that he was supposed to hand over the Epstein files, they cover it up by stealing children. The sheer act of what they did with the Bella One off the coast of Great Britain was all done as an excuse to gather to, quote unquote, protect Greenland. So all these nations, all these kingdoms that are rising up against Donald Trump and that, like it's all part of the plot to start World War III. Because then what happened was all of them, including France and Great Britain, America, Israel, they've all started talking about needing nuclear power to deal with nations like Russia and China and North Korea and Iran, because you know how they've been secretly wanting to get Iran for ages. So, behold, I come like a thief, because they stole the kids. Blessed, and he stole the gold and the oil, and they steal everything. Blessed is he who stays awake and keeps his clothes with him, so that he may not go naked and be shamefully exposed. Then they gather the kings together in the place that in Hebrew is called Armageddon. Now remember, they got Maduro in the middle of the night. People thought he was a victim, but he ended up being a perpetrator. And they gathered the kings together to the place that in Hebrew is called Armageddon. And what are they planning to do right now? Since they did the whole Venezuela thing? Yeah, yeah. So God knew. God knew this whole time. He's just been waiting for it. For how many thousands of years? The seventh angel poured out his bowl into the air, and out of the temple came a loud voice from the throne saying, "It is done." Then there came the flashes of lightning, rumblings, peals of thunder, and a severe earthquake. No earthquake like it has ever occurred since man has been on earth. So tremendous was this quake. Which is funny because I had that dream about Queen Elizabeth standing on Windsor Castle, and she said she stomped her foot and she said, "No!" And the ground shook. And then I got that bleeding nose, and whenever I get a random bleeding nose, it always means an earthquake. And then there was that earthquake in Israel, right on their nuclear testing site. So no earthquake like it has ever occurred since man has been on this earth, because Israel's ancient land. Um, it's never experienced nuclear testing before. It's never experienced earthquakes that have come from them doing underground nuclear bomb testing. So God knew. God knew. I mean, this is why I love him so much. That it's like, oh my God. But he spells out exactly what's coming. Um, the great city split in three parts, and the city of the nations collapsed. God remembered Babylon the Great, and gave her the cup filled with the wine of the fury of his wrath. Every island fled away, and the mountains could not be found. From the sky, huge hailstones of about 100 pounds each fell upon men, and they cursed God on account of the plague of hail, because the plague was so terrible. The bombing of Israel, the bombs dropping on Israel, the hail of bombs. And because you know how Netanyahu's fled Israel, and people have been told by other nations, leave Israel immediately, because remember God gave Iran permission to wipe Israel off the face of the earth because of the sins that they have been committing against man and innocents. I remember I did that thing where God and Allah, they said, this needs to be done. Israel needs to be wiped off the map, because the only way that the Jewish people are ever going to be able to rise again and stand in God's true faith is by getting rid of the evil that has been feeding them the toxicity. The real Jews, the proper Jews, the ones who live by the Torah and believe in God, and want to be good people and servants of God, they've been tarnished by the actions of the government that thinks rule over them, in a way that the only way this can be dealt with is if that government that rules over the people of Israel, that rules over the Jews, is for it to be wiped out. And it's been ordained by God and Allah for Iran to wipe Israel off the face of the earth, because people of nations have had enough of having their lives dictated and their nations ruled. You can say you're France, you can say you're Germany, you can say you're Great Britain, you can say you're America, Canada, whatever, but if you're being paid for by Israel, you're ruled by Israel. And people are getting sick and tired of it, and Jewish people are getting sick and tired of it because they're being targeted. It was all done on purpose, the same way that Muslims and Christians have been targeted, Jews have been targeted as well. And this whole anti-Semitism thing, and how these governments are making out like we're going to arrest you for being anti-Semitic, it's all done to target Jewish people, like just ordinary, average, everyday Jewish people who have nothing to do with Israel and want nothing to do with Israel. You know, they consider themselves the ancient Jews, the ones that were around before the bad Jews came along and poisoned everything, poisoned God, poisoned the way people saw God. That's why they wrote the Bible, because they wanted to have control over how people saw God, including Christians and Muslims. Because whether you're Christian, Muslim, or Jew, we call him God. I'm not Christian, but I call him God. Everyone knows him as God. Um, So, so the hailstones is Israel getting wiped off the face of the earth. And it's America, it's Donald Trump he's giving Israel the tools that they need to do what they need to do so that Donald Trump can sit on his throne and be the King of Kings. He's the false prophet. He's trying to claim his rightful place on the King David bloodline throne. So they're working together. So that's what that's about. So God's given, in the Bible, God has given Iran permission to drop hailstones on men so big that they curse God. But it's not the innocent people that he's targeting, it's the ones who have been drinking and feeding the blood, the adrenochrome, the paedophile, sex trafficking, Epsteiner coalition. And the coalition of Epsteiners, it's important. I'll explain in a second. The woman on the beast. One of the 7 angels who had the 7 bowls came and said to me, "Come, I will show you the punishment of the great prostitute who sits on many waters." That's Israel. They sit on the throne of, they will give themselves to whoever is willing to accept their sins, because they're basically the devil. They tempt you. I saw a thing on X a few days ago. Israel, if your weakness is women, Israel will give you women. If your weakness is money, Israel will give you money. If your weakness is fame, Israel will make you famous. It's that. Babylon. Um, and because they secretly are in control of countries like Germany, France, Great Britain, America, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, all of them, with who the kings of the earth committed adultery, and the inhabitants of the earth were intoxicated with the wine of her adulteries. And because we know what happens when they have the adrenochrome, fame makes you drunk, money makes you drunk, you become obsessed, it becomes a lust. It's lustful to want, like Donald Trump, more. I need more money, more money, more money. I need it, I need it, I need it. More isn't enough. I need it all, I need it all. He's drunk on lust, he's drunk on power, because he drank from the cup of the great prostitute of Babylon. And Keir Starmer's the same. He's becoming the same. Enough is never enough. Then the angel carried me away in the spirit into the desert, and there I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast that was covered with blasphemous names and had 7 heads and 10 horns. The woman was dressed in purple and scarlet and was glittering with gold, precious stones and pearls. She held a golden cup in her hand filled with abominable things and the filth of her adulteries. This title was written on her forehead: Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of prostitutes and the abominations of the earth. I mean, you could say it's the wall in Jerusalem. You know how when you sign up to the Illuminati and you join the World Economic Forum and that they take you to Israel and you go to the wall and you put the writings in the wall and you put your head up to the wall and all that, you could say it's the wall. I saw that the woman was drunk with the blood of the saints and the blood of those who bore testimony to Jesus, sacrificing people like me, sacrificing the pure and innocent. The younger you are, the closer you are to God in spirit. And, yeah, the children, the Epsteiners. When I saw her, I was greatly astonished. Then the angel said to me, "Why are you astonished? I will explain to you the mystery of the woman and the beast she rides, which has the 7 heads and the 10 horns." Remember Donald Trump just had that thing in Mar-a-Lago with the raising the money for the dog charity, and he had that person blowing on the horns? Yeah. The beast which you saw once was, now is not, and will come up out of the abyss and go to his destruction. The inhabitants of the earth, whose names have not been written in the book of life from the creation of the world, will be astonished when they see the beast, because he once was, now is not, and yet will come. Realizing, holy shit, Donald Trump is Lucifer. Donald Trump is, like, all of this is real. We were fooled by his blasphemous false promises. We were tricked into thinking that he was going to be the guy that saves us from Biden and all that, and it turns out like we jumped from the frying pan into the fire. That's happening right now, which all these court cases and stuff that he's dealing with, that he's been found guilty of, Congress have agreed to impeach him. This is everybody now suddenly realising he's not who we thought he was. And don't be fooled by J.D. Vance as well. He's looking for any opportunity to become president, but he's on the Epstein list and he owns an adrenochrome factory called Ambrosia. He's one of them. You cannot get into any position in Trump's administration or in the American presidential administration without signing your soul to the devil. So everybody in his administration, from the highest to the lowest, including like Cash Patel and that, his "you'll see you in Valhalla," all of that, they're all in on it. So don't be fooled. J.D. Vance will never be president. This calls for a mind with wisdom. Ka-ching! The 7 heads are 7 hills on which the woman sits. So he's basically saying, sit up and pay attention. This is important that the world pays attention. You got to listen to this. They are also 7 kings. 5 have fallen, 1 is. The other has not yet come, but when he does come, he must remain for a little while. The beast who once was and now is not is an 8th king. He belongs to the 7th and is going to his destruction. 5 are fallen. 5 are fallen. So you're talking about world leaders. The one who 5 have fallen, 1 is falling, that's Trump, he's the one who's falling now. The other has not yet come, and when he does come, he must remain for a little while. I think that's Keir Starmer. The beast who once was and now is not is an 8th king. He belongs to the 7th, and he is going to his destruction. That's J.D. Vance. Because he's the vice president, so he's like the other president. So that's talking about J.D. Vance. So he will never be president. God's not going to allow it. The 10 horns you saw are 10 kings who have not yet received a kingdom, but who for 1 hour will receive authority as kings alone with the beast. They have one purpose and will give their power and authority to the beast. They will make war against the Lamb, but the Lamb will overcome them because he is Lord of lords and King of kings. And with him will be his called, chosen and faithful followers. So what that's saying is God allowed Maduro, Trump, Starmer, Netanyahu, Macron, Merz, von der Leyen, all the NATO leaders and that, he allowed them to do Denmark, Iceland, Greenland, all of them. I don't know if Greenland's involved, but I'm assuming they are because, yeah, it's a little bit too convenient. But anyway, all of them. He's allowed them to think that they're the ones in control, which is exactly what he had told me about Starmer and Trump anyway, why I was used as bait. He allowed them to think they were the ones in control. The horns that they speak about will be to do with their militaries and their people like Elon Musk and Palantir. You know, the ones that help them have the control and the power. He needed them to be, you know how Donald Trump was saying about when he was Q about playing a game of chess and do you remove the queen to take out the king and you know yada la la. God was playing a bigger game of chess that he had in the Bible. And basically he needed all of these world leaders to do what they had to do to let them think they were in positions of power so that they could pull off what they pulled off the coast of Great Britain with the Bella One, in order to be able to pull the curtains back and expose to the world exactly who these leaders really were as per everything I've been saying, so that then their kingdoms would collapse as a result. They had to become presidents, they had to become prime ministers, they had to pull off everything that they were trying to pull off, including the plagues, World Health Organization, and all of that. So that when he pulled back the curtain and said, look, look what they're doing, it can't be denied. And then everyone has to distance themselves and keep themselves away because they don't want to go down with the ship. They will make war against the Lamb, but the Lamb will overcome them because he is the Lord of lords and the King of kings, and with him will be his called, chosen and faithful followers. That's talking about Vladimir Putin is the Lamb, King Charles is the King. He's the King of kings, he is the King David bloodline, he is the original King David bloodline. He's from the original Anglo-Israelite King David bloodline. His bloodline went from being Jewish to Christian. And the Lamb is the Son of God. Who, well, I mean, in the Holy Trinity, the King is the Son of God. So you could say, I've always considered Vladimir Putin the Lamb of God, but because he's the one who gets the new world, he gets the new spring, he gets to bring forth the new world and gets the new Jerusalem. But in this case, you could argue that the Lamb is King Charles because everything they've been doing is to try and overthrow the British monarchy. So you could argue that the Lamb of Lambs, the King of Kings, is King Charles. And with him will be his called, chosen and faithful followers. As far as I'm aware, that's literally only me. I'm the only one out here trying to defend him. Well, Vladimir Putin and I, we're out here trying to wake the king up and alert the king to the lies and the propaganda and the schemes, the isms and schisms that they've been doing behind his back in order to dethrone him. And then the angel said to me, the waters you saw where the prostitutes sit are peoples, multitudes, nations and languages. The beast and the 10 horns you saw, see the beast and the 10 horns are like Musk and Palantir, and you know how they're using AI for their defences, and it's all the things that he's using within his power to help him pull off the things that he's trying to pull off. Like how they, how in X, there's no news about all the trouble that Donald Trump is in behind closed doors. There's no news about how he's lost Mar-a-Lago because he's not been paying off his fines. He's got the protection of people like Zuckerberg and Elon Musk to hide the sins that they're committing, but also to hide the judgments that are now falling upon him for his sins. So the 10 horns are people like Elon Musk and X and Zuckerberg and that. And then the second anyone tries to post anything, they're either blocked, banned, kicked off, shadow banned, or they're immediately hit with things like it's lies, it's propaganda, and then they go to Grok. Is it true, Grok? And everyone knows that Grok is fake. Everyone knows that he types in the answers. There's no AI when it comes to Grok. It's all what he tells it to say. That's the example of the 10 horns and Palantir and all of them. Um, the beast and the 10 horns you saw will hate the prostitute. They will bring her to ruin and leave her naked. They will eat her flesh and burn her with fire. For God has put it into their hearts to accomplish his purpose by agreeing to give the beast their power to rule until God's words are fulfilled. So you know how you've got countries like Israel. You've got countries like Italy and all that saying we're banning Israel. We're banning people from coming from Israel. We're banning if Netanyahu turns up here, we're arresting him. Meanwhile, they're secretly doing Israel's bidding. They got to make out to the world like they're anti-Israel, but we all know behind closed doors they're the friends of Israel. That's what he's talking about. He's had to let them play the game in order for them to play his game. And then he says, by agreeing to give the beast their power to rule until God's words are fulfilled. So and they're allowed to get away with it until the truth is exposed, and God can say, like I'm doing now, I knew this was coming all along, and I've already won the game of chess that you thought you were playing 2,000 plus years ago. The woman you saw is the great city that rules over the kings of the earth, Israel. The fall of Babylon. After this I saw another angel coming from heaven. He had great authority, and the earth was illuminated by his splendour. With a mighty voice he shouted, Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great. She has become a home for demons and a haunt for every evil spirit, a haunt for every unclean and detestable bird. For all the nations have drunk the maddening wine of her adulteries. Israel, the detestable bird will be the Air Force. You know how they used the American Air Force, the British Air Force to pull off the whole Bella One thing, and the home of demons haunted by every evil spirit. You know how they all flee to Israel. Jeffrey Epstein's in Israel. And it's horrible that God sees Israel like this, but while their government are in power, while their governments are running Israel the way they have done since the 40s, well, since they wrote the Bible, technically, since they killed Jesus, yeah, it is. That's not fair on the Jews, though, is it? I mean, people from Iraq got blamed for all the sins of Saddam Hussein. People were happy to see Iraqis being bombed during the Iraq War, which all ended up being a lie. There were no weapons of mass destruction of any sort. Tony Blair did to Iraq what Trump is trying to do to Iran, and none of it's true. And now they're trying to say the same thing. Oh, Russia's going to nuke everyone, so that they've got an excuse to go in and nuke Russia like it's evil. And then what happens is they all flee to Israel. When they know that the shit's hit the fan and they've got to run, they all flee to Israel, because Israel's, their government are like, well, if you get caught, just come here. They have no extradition laws or anything like that. So they commit these crimes. With what happened with Charlie Kirk, he's probably in Israel. That private plane that was owned by Trump's Jewish chapter, because he's Jewish. Like he practices Judaism, and he belongs to that. I can't remember what they're called, the Levy, whatever it was, the ones that owned the plane, that private plane where they switched everything off, like right after Kirk was quote unquote assassinated. He's probably in Israel. They always flee to Israel. For all the nations have drunk the maddening wine of her adulteries. The maddening wine, when you drink adrenochrome, it gives you a high, and when you no longer get access to adrenochrome, it drives you mad. And it shows on your face, like your skin and your face gets all wizened and old. And you have like withdrawal symptoms because it's highly, highly addictive, as is human flesh. My ancestors, I've said this before, my ancestors were cannibals right up until after World War Two. Is why the Germans were terrified of the Mighty Battalion, because we were killing Germans and eating them right in front of them, and that to scare the crap out of them. But human flesh is addictive. It's once you start eating human flesh, it's hard to get off it, and because they put human flesh in um, McDonald's, and everybody knows Donald Trump is addicted to McDonald's, the golden arches of Baal. The kings of the earth committed adultery with her, and the merchants of the earth grew rich from her excessive luxuries. And because you know how they do all the tariffs, we'll only trade with this, and um, all the people that have been paid, like I said, Angela Rayner, how does the Ministry of Housing make 4 million quid a year? How's she worth 4 million? How's the Prime Minister of Great Britain worth 14 million? Is because they're paid. They get paid a lot of money to work on behalf of Israel, and so they walk like with Angela Rayner walking around with her multiple houses, drunk on the luxuries. The merchants get drunk on the luxuries. Bezos, Zuckerberg, Musk, and all that. Oh, I'm just going to go and buy Ryanair, which is really interesting because he started a beef with the guy that owns Ryanair, and then someone said, "Oh, why don't you buy Ryanair?" And then next thing you know, X is flooded with news. Elon Musk is going to buy Ryanair, and it's a prime example of how they set social media up to suit their narrative, even when it's a lie. Someone made one little innocent comment, and then next thing you know, everyone was talking about how Elon Musk is going to buy Ryanair. It's they they feed you the lies. They feed you the blood. That's them feeding the blood. The beast, the horns of the beast, feed you the blood to make you go along with a narrative that is completely false. That's what he's talking about. And then they get drunk on the riches from the excesses. So then they make all this money because they get all the um, defence contracts and this contracts and that contract that's all tied up to Israel, and they get filthy rich on it, and then they drive around like Zuckerberg going on about climate change with his gajillion pound yacht, and Elon Musk being led to believe that he's the genius of all creative technology and he's the biggest retard on the planet. Like, that man couldn't tie his shoes together, let alone pull off sending anything into space that was going to make contact with aliens. And now they're trying to say the Bank of England is preparing for the news that aliens are about to be announced, that, Project Bluebeam and all that bollocks. That's how you know they're collapsing, because the last thing of the prophecy was that they'd try and say that there was going to be an alien invasion when they knew that the Illuminati master plan was falling apart. So then I heard another voice from heaven say, "Come out of her, my people, so that you will not share in her sins, so that you will not receive any of her plagues. For her sins are piled up to heaven, and God has remembered her crimes. Give back to her as she has given. Pay her back double for what she has done. Mix her a double portion from her own cup. Give her as much torture and grief as the glory and luxury she gave herself. In her attack she boasts, I sit as queen, I am not a widow, I am, and I will never mourn. Therefore, in one day, Sorry, therefore in one day her plagues will overtake her, death and mourning and famine. She will be consumed by fire, for mighty is the Lord God who judges her. So that's all I've been told to read up to. So basically what that means is God is saying to the people of Israel, to the genuine Jews, to the genuine Christians, to the genuine people who believe in God, but specifically the Jews. Now is the time. We got to rise up and fight the beast system. Donald Trump is the mark of the beast. Donald Trump is the beast. He is Lucifer, but he is controlled by Molech, who sits on the throne in Israel. So God is saying, turn your back on Israel, turn your back on the sins that Israel are paying our leaders to commit against us, in order to work in their favour, for which they are being rewarded luxuries that are driving them mad with their sins. Because we know that, like, von der Leyen isn't normal, that Calais is a complete psychopath. Macron is a psychopath. He goes around putting hits on people that make jokes about his missus. Starmer's losing his mind. He's got PPD. And it's saying, God is saying, turn your back on them now. And he's saying to the people of Israel, now is the time to take your government down and return to the old ways. Find God again, find your faith in God again, and not your country's leaders. God is calling for the people of Israel to return to the true faith of Judaism, and not what they're being fed through the Talmud and Netanyahu and all that. They've been fed these lies to believe that they were untouchable, when God's actually getting ready to wipe them off the face of the earth. And the only way they can stop being wiped off the face of the earth is if they wake up to the truth of what their government have been feeding them victimhood and superiority that they didn't deserve. There are very few people left living who survived the concentration camps. They're the ones who get to sit in the victimhood. They're the ones that have the right to call themselves victims. But if you went in those concentration camps, you're a victim of nothing. You're a victim of lies and propaganda being fed to you by your Israeli government. And Mossad are committing the most heinous acts of human rights depravities and sins against God and humanity on a level that only God could write about in the Bible. So he's telling Jewish people, wake up or you're going to get wiped out. Because what he's saying is, when this is over, there won't be Jews left. People will either be too ashamed to say they're Jewish, or they'll be so terrified of what they realise they were a part of, they will turn to other religions. And God's getting rid of religion anyway. He wrote that in the book of Revelation. So, in short, what happened in Venezuela, God knew was coming when he wrote the Bible. And he had to let it happen. He's had to let these things happen. He's had to let these things play out with these kingdoms, and the beast, and, the great prostitute of Babylon. Because if you look at Jewish history, and I'm not talking about the Jewish people, I'm talking about who eventually created the government that governs Israel. They'll go to anyone that'll have them. They're not picky about who they try and weasel their way into. But their big mistake is God put Starmer in charge so that the king could wake up and realise what was going on right under his family's nose, and has been since Queen Victoria. The Lamb of Lamb, the King of Kings. So I got woken up to discover that thing in the Bible, to read it out, to put this message out to people, to say, like, and specifically as well, America, Great Britain, Israel. If you believe in God, if you really truly believe in God, you have to turn your back on your leaders, because they are leading you into the end of days. He spells it out. Iran will come after all of you, and they will be ordained to do it. Donald Trump is already falling. They're just not putting it on social media because when word gets out about what's actually going on with him behind closed doors, there will be like an uproar. Um, X will get torn to shreds. Social media will get torn to shreds. They're covering it up. Elon Musk and Zuckerberg and that, they're covering up the amount of trouble that Trump is in. Congress have actually, and it's on the news, it was on Rachel Maddow and all of that, he's been impeached. He's in serious trouble. His days are out, and when he falls, Starmer falls as well. And it's all because they were stupid enough to try and pull off that thing off the coast of Great Britain. If I hadn't have figured out what they were doing, none of this would have been exposed. I've been exposing them for the longest time, but that what they did with the Bella One was like God saying, checkmate, now I've got you. And now what's going to happen is the fall of Babylon. Israel's about to be wiped off the face of the earth. God's giving the people of Israel the opportunity to do it first before he sends Iran in. So, and people are already protesting in Israel anyway, demanding the truth of what happened on October 7 and that. So, this is the end. This is the end of Israel. This is the end of America, Trump's America, Starmer's Great Britain, France's Macron's France. This is the end. We're in the end of days. God spelled it out. He was just waiting for them to pull off that Bella One thing. So, yeah, that's what I got woken up for. So now I'm going to have another big drink of water and I'm going to go back to sleep because I'm a dutiful servant of the Lord. So happy Sabbath day, everyone. Sit and have a day of rest and just sit in your faith in God and know that He's got this. They all played right into His. They all played His hand. They walked right into His trap. This is a big gotcha moment. They threatened me with all sorts as well. They threatened to arrest me because I exposed what they did on the Bella One. And I'm like, I don't care because I know how this ends. And now He's literally spelled it out in the Bible. What they just did. He knew what they were doing. He knew when He wrote the Bible that what they pulled off in Venezuela was going to be what starts their downfall. And I've always said, when Trump falls, Starmer falls, the EU falls, it all collapses. Because it's not going to go according to their plan, it's going according to God's plan. And I've just proved it in the Bible. So fear not, people of the world. God's got this. Allah, they're right on it. So it's just a shame that social media are blocking the news of the disaster that is all Donald Trump's lawsuits and court cases. But Congress have announced that they are impeaching Donald Trump. And it's on the Rachel Maddow show. It's all there. It's on actual news reports. They're just not putting it on social media and that because they are the horns of the beast. So they work for the beast. One can't exist without the other. Elon Musk needs Trump's administration in order to get all the money and get all the contracts that he wants. Palantir the same. Zuckerberg's the same. They all feed off each other. Like the vampires and cannibals that they are. So when God's talking about blood in the Bible, He's talking about human sacrifices, adrenochrome, or the life source of the pure and innocent, depending on the context. So now you know. Have a beautiful Sunday. I shall speak to you soon. Spring is starting to make an appearance. I can feel her. I can feel her starting to rise. So we need to get this done before spring gets here, people, because we don't want to start a fresh new season. We don't want to start a fresh new year having to deal with bombs dropping on Israel. Let's try and avoid that, eh? But if you deny God's message, then the bombs are going to drop and Israel's going to get wiped off the face of the earth. Or if you do the right thing and listen to God, then what's going to happen is the bombs won't drop. It'll be truth bombs that ends up exposing all the bad guys and their connection to Israel, and then Israel will get wiped away, but it'll be with a clean slate, where they then get to plant the olive trees, which is peace and healing and like rejuvenation and getting to start again, going back to tradition and the ancient ways before their God started commanding that they kill things in order to worship him. Because that's not God, that's Molech. God would never, ever, ever, ever ask anyone to sacrifice their son, their daughter, their wife, their animal, their goat, their nothing. God does not ask for blood sacrifices. That's all the part of the Bible that was written by the people who wanted to control the narrative of who they wanted you to think God was. Even Jesus says in the New Testament, um, what I can't remember which part it is, but he's like, God says, like, I created the mountains, I created the goats, I created the bulls, so they're mine, they belong to me. So why are you killing them? Why are you sacrificing them to give them back to me when I already own them? So like, and Jesus, like, don't kill things, don't kill calves to do the blood sacrifice for God. That like, it's ridiculous. God is life, not death. He's the life of creation. So yeah, you don't sacrifice nothing in the name of God other than your own sins. You purge your own sins like I did. I purged myself of my sins. I sacrificed things of myself, parts of myself that were an abuse of my good nature, an abuse of my soul, and disrespectful in the name of God, who wants us all to just like not be perfect, but be pure and at peace with ourselves. And when you've got toxic traits and habits and addictions, and you're carrying ancestral karmic debt or karmic traits from your parents and stuff like that, you have to be the one to sacrifice them all for the greater good of yourself. And then when you do that, when you're pure and at peace, then that's when you know God. So, yeah, I'm going to go now. I shall speak to you later. Ka kite anō. Mwah.